And literally within a matter of weeks, my business went from a current underlying rate, but more than 300% increase within a matter of weeks.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it at the time because I wasn't into these teachings, but I can look back on that and absolutely see how it was just the evidence of a shift in my state.
Yeah. Hey guys, it's Niclas here from upgradetolife.com. And today, again, I have an amazing interview guest on the channel. His name is Rob. And we want to discuss some topics related to business, to law of attraction versus law of assumption, doing versus being, this whole topic on taking action. So we brainstormed some amazing ideas. And right now, spontaneously, in a very authentic conversation, we want to express that. So before we start, Rob, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, sure, Niclas. So Niclas has invited me to join him for a conversation. I'm based in UK and Scotland. I'm now a coach. I work with entrepreneurs predominantly, supporting them with this understanding. And prior to that, I've been coaching now for about 14 years. But prior to that, I was in the world of business and entrepreneurship and had a couple of businesses which I exited in 2009, I think it was. And so my full-time focus is on supporting entrepreneurs to get what it is they really want.
Awesome. Super interesting. As you know, my channel is pretty much only focused on Neville's teaching, so law of assumption. Since how long are you engaging in Neville's teaching specifically?
So specifically, I'm not that clear on it, but perhaps the last 6 years, it's been an evolution into it, and it was a crossover between coming out of some more mainstream teachings and into Neville's, but perhaps about 6 years now.
Yeah, got it. That's already the perfect transition to this topic of the, let's call them, without this like making them seem looking bad, but the more mainstream teachings, right? There's self-help, then we have law of attraction, then we have this law of assumption teaching. What do you see as some differences between those two teachings? Like there is law of attraction, there is law of assumption. What's on your mind when you hear those two different names, those two different laws that are been taught about in the manifesting community?
Yeah, so maybe if it's okay, the starting point might be what I would call the non-spiritual side of teachings in terms of personal development and how to go about achieving goals and so on. And very mainstream teachings are typically, decide what you want, set a goal. You've got so much, they tell you about your potentiality, but don't necessarily dive into our spiritual nature. But, set a goal, make a plan, take massive action every day, take consistent action, focus on your goals, all of that stuff, which to my mind is very, it's egoic, and there's nothing wrong with it, and we can achieve a great deal, and you can create wealth in your life and all the rest of it. However, the reality is that most people who embark on pursuing their goals through that methodology don't succeed. It's if I go and I wave some batons about for the weekend, and I go to a big parade about setting goals, setting intentions, and yeehaw, and I do a fire walk, and I get all geared up, and then I go back into my business. The effects are short term, and it's always going to feel like I'm getting out of bed on a Monday and having to work really hard. And to the best of my knowledge, Niclas, nobody's handing out medals for working hard. And I went down that road, and then that led me into starting to explore the more spiritual aspect and law of attraction teachings. And my understanding is that law of attraction teaches us that we attract things into our experience. So we are separate to our goals, but if we line up with them vibrationally and so on, we can attract things into our experience. And that works for a number of people, but it's, in real terms, it's a very small percentage of people, because they're coming at it from wanting, and they're coming at it from separation. So I want this, and then therefore I've got to come into alignment with it and be vibrationally aligned. But the wanting persists, and therefore the resistance persists. And wanting and having are not harmonious. We can't want and have at the same time. And many people I've encountered experience quite a lot of unhappiness on the back of trying really hard to make law of attraction work and then not succeeding in making it work. And then, of course, the longer they try, the more prone they are to going and seeking teachers who tell them how to make law of attraction work. And it's not a happy ending for most people.
A long cycle.
And then there's, yeah. And I may be giving a longer answer than you might have wanted, Niclas, but
no, it's good. It's perfect.
And then there's law of assumption teachings, which are founded in the fact that actually we are already one with our desires, from oneness rather than separation. And that's a bit more challenging to really understand and engage with. But I am aware that a lot of law assumption teachers still teach from a point of view of separation, and nothing wrong with that per se, but it still then perpetuates the wanting, and therefore we don't get the outcomes that we might want. So law of assumption is that who we are is we are one with our goals, and we're pushing them out into our experience. And what I like about that as a teaching, apart from the fact that it's teaching from fulfillment, which is what everybody really wants, what everybody's really seeking is themselves to understand that they're already whole and complete. So it teaches from fulfillment, which means that we're no longer coming at it from lack. But what I also love about it is it ties in perfectly with modern science. You know, we look at increasing evidence of the quantum physics and quantum mechanics and teachings of the last 120 years, and law of assumption is it's an exact fit. You know, that non-dual teachings, science and spirituality come together, whereas law of attraction and conventional teachings keep us apart. So
I agree. That is basically what you just started to explain. For me also is this topic that we wanted to bring into the conversation a little bit and express, is this topic on doing versus being. Because I noticed that some people in this, law of attraction field and in other fields, they are in an inner state, they are in an identity, they are in self-concept, and then out of their current level, right, that's their current level, they try to get to this level, and they try to do all of these actions and do this and do this, but they're still in the consciousness, in the awareness of their old identity. So to try from this old state, this 1.0 version, to have the things that the 2.0 version has, but they're not aligning to the 2.0 version already within. And that's why they fall back, or it feels very exhausting. They may be getting some results, like you said, but it's not really it. Like they fall back or they feel burned out, especially in business, whatever it might be. So this is this big difference that you also said, which is the law of assumption more goes into the being level, right? It is already available. That state that you want is within you right here, right now, and we can start to be it here and now, to start to embody it. Is there anything that you would like to add to this topic on being versus doing that you have in mind?
I think that's perfect. I think it's the when we really come into the understanding of the teachings, we are understanding that we're not trying to become anything that we're not already. So it's a bit like going into a warehouse and saying, I'm going to select that identity off the shelf, that it's an identity that already exists within me. I just need to give it life now.
Yes.
And our wanting of a new reality for ourselves is just every goal that we have is a hidden identity waiting to be embodied.
Yeah.
Whereas some of the other teachings are, you need to grow and you need to become something that you're not already, and therefore that's coming immediately from lack and creating resistance and striving.
This is also a thing. This is really true. I see it exactly like you, and this is also a thing where Neville said, "Our true self's name is not I will be, but I am." So there's only here, there's only now. I am it right now, and I think that some people forget this whole mirror principle, this whole mirror kind of function of the circumstances, which can only confirm what we have now alive within us. And so those people that want, in our conversation maybe right now, to bring it to the business context, that want to get more revenue or love their business more, be a more authentic version of a business owner, they always say, okay, I'm doing certain stuff to be it maybe later at some point, but they're forgetting that the world can only give them what they have alive within themselves right now. So that's something that more people, more business owners should take into consideration, so that business stays a fun journey and a lighthearted journey.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing that's maybe not anticipated on the journey is that, our heart, our true self wants the unknown. We want to express. We have goals for a reason and desires because we're seeking to have experience of things that we've not previously had experience of. Whereas our false sense of self, our belief that we are mind and body, wants the known.
Yeah.
So we've to create the change in our life, we've got to become comfortable with uncertainty.
Yeah,
it's a prerequisite to be okay with the unknown. We've got to be willing to step into an identity before we can see the evidence. If we're looking for the evidence before we embrace the identity, we're going to spin around forever.
Yeah, really true. This reminds me on this topic of faith that we previously had the conversation about, where you learned from the amazing Bob Proctor that you got the honor to work with. You had this quote. I can't even express it the way that you said it. I forgot, but it's either you have faith in this thing or that thing. It's like equally easy to have faith in one or two things. Like either the bad thing or the good outcome.
Yes. I forget his exact words, but I think he said something along the lines of, well, Rob, faith is faith. You've always got faith in something. It's just whether you've got faith in your desires or faith in your fears, faith in what you want or faith in what you're afraid of. He said, but whether you believe you've got faith or not, rest assured you've always got faith in something. And it's so true, isn't it?
Yeah. When we talk about manifesting and those principles and applying them and utilizing them, there is also this topic of we do it all the time. Right, I think you had some interesting perspectives on that. Manifesting is not something that you can say, oh, I'm turning it on, I'm turning it off. So what is your honest point of view, your honest perception on this word manifesting, even though on this topic that people sometimes hype it up?
Yeah, I think it's a word that's used a great deal, and it's used in typically around spiritual teachings, law of attraction, law of assumption, or are you into manifestation? I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
and really, when we explore the word and we explore it in conjunction with the nature of reality, we're always manifesting is just a word to explain how creation works, how reality works. We're always manifesting, regardless of whether we're anti the whole concept of manifesting. We could say, oh, that manifesting bullshit.
Yeah, that's I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. I don't believe in manifesting. Well, you're doing it anyway, because it's the nature of reality, and it's just whether we're doing it consciously or unconsciously. And so it's a word. I tend not to use it as a word because so many people associate with it in a certain way, but we're doing it anyway. And so when I'm working with clients, I say I'm not going to be teaching you anything that you're not already doing. I'm just going to be teaching you to do consciously what you're maybe doing unconsciously, so you can get more of what you want and less of what you don't want.
That's absolutely correct. I see it exactly like you, and that's also what Neville said at some point. He said you can no more, like you can never stop to assume a state, to dwell in states, to internally be in states, and you can stop eating and drinking. Like when we maybe do a conscious meditation where we become the blank slate, then we are not identified with a state. But throughout the day-to-day life, normally we dwell on states, we dwell on feelings, we dwell on imaginal activities, and we have thoughts that we entertain and all of that stuff. So therefore, and that is then expressed in some way, shape, or form in our life and our circumstances, and no one can stop this. Like no one is excluded of this principle of those teachings. And that is why also I have also some friends and also some business owners, and they say, no, I don't want to manifest. I focus on action. I focus on the facts. I focus on what's in front of me. And yeah, that's sometimes tricky. Sometimes they stay stuck for a very long time. Yeah.
Yeah, and we've talked about it in terms of, well, what drives the action, and invariably that's our imagination anyway. We're imagining prior to taking the action. What precedes the I'll do, or precedes the thinking, and we forget just what an imaginal world we really live in. Like, I'm sitting in my office and out with what I can currently see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. My entire reality consists of what's in my mind.
Yeah,
and for any of us, that's our life. What we can detect with our senses and the contents of our mind.
Yeah.
You could say, oh no, what about your car, or your relationships and your friends, or the pub down the road, or the supermarket? Well, currently they're all just in my mind.
Yep. And when
they're imagined.
Yeah, imagine that's crazy to even think of that. There's one person said this. I don't know who exactly was it. Maybe it was even Steve Jobs that said everything that's around you was created by people that are not smarter than you, not smarter than us, right? They just imagined it and brought it into being. Like Steve Jobs brought the iPhone into being. He was the first one who did that. But everything you see, your laptop, the screen that we're looking at, the camera we're both looking at right now, whatever it is, first was imagined from someone, and then like it was brought into our sense perception world. But it's all coming from unseen reality, from unseen states that have then been brought to life because someone previously imagined it. So therefore, like you said it, I totally agree. It's an imaginative world, and we move through things that we manifest, or even like people around us manifest.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And when we get into these teachings and really start to explore our true identity, which is what law of assumption and Neville's teachings really support us to do. You know, Neville's teachings, as I understand the components, there's the law and manifesting, and then there's our awareness of being and who we really are. And when we really start to explore that experientially, and we look at our lives and we think about everything in our life, on our life journey, what's the one thing that has remained constant? Because if it's not constant in our experience, on some level you could say, well, it's then transient and it's not real.
Yeah.
So who are we really? And it's clear that I'm not my name. I could change my name tomorrow. My body has changed. I look significantly different to the way I did when I was a child. Everything in my experience has changed. My life, my house, so what's the one constant? And the one constant is the awareness that's looking back at me from the mirror. Whenever I look in a mirror, that awareness is the same. That awareness that is with me as I go through my life is the same awareness.
Yes.
And one of the things that I observe when people talk about, in one of Neville's great works, the power of awareness, I'm not sure how many people realize that actually the power of awareness is the power of you.
Exactly.
It's awareness. Awareness is who we are.
Yeah. And when we wake up to, and that is where when the game really becomes fun. Like first, people they want to manifest this to be a little bit more happy. They want to manifest this to be more fulfilled. They see it very all separated. Then they see, okay, wait a second. It is within me. I can right now assume the state of being this, of having this. I don't need to wait for the manifestation. I can right now already be in that feeling state, right now already feel the mood of what it would be like to have that, to have achieved that. And then the mirror can confirm it. But what becomes really interesting when we deeply understand that we are that awareness, right? The power of awareness, like you said, is the power of us, our true self. And we then consciously operate the law, like we bring it all together. Because then when we have a goal, we know that it's already there. It's already within us. And the only thing that we have to do is shine the light of our true self, of our awareness on that already existing portion of creation. Like Neville said, I love this explanation, is that creation is finished, everything exists, and we move through states. And now there is a desire, this is right now an invisible state or portion of creation. And by us becoming aware of it, by us becoming conscious of it, by us connecting with it, identifying with it, imagining already being it, we start to internally like move in the state of that, of being it. This brings us back to the topic of being instead of doing. And then because we are it, the world can show it to us. Because like Neville said, it's a mirror constantly showing us who we are, not what we want and what we keep separate. So there's a whole new paradigm of actually seeing life. And yeah, I'm glad you brought this up. It's really powerful.
Yes. And I think it really helps to observe others in the world that we might know who maybe have no affinity or even interest in such teachings, but who have created success in different aspects of their life. Yeah. And just by taking some time to, if we know them well, we can understand through our interactions with them along the way that actually they have created in their life relative to who they've been being.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And we can see the evidence. The evidence is on display for us at all times. We can prove these teachings through our own direct experience. We don't really need to have faith in them. We can actually prove them for ourselves.
Yeah. There are many
great
exercises. I'm good you said this, so that someone that is listening to us right now is not just listening to us and hearing those principles and fundamentals, but that you guys that are listening to us right now, you test it, you prove it, you apply it for yourself. I don't know, Rob, if you remember any maybe exercises or manifestations that you had for the law. I know sometimes we even forget. Like I don't remember what I manifested 2 months ago, but I know that I did manifest the stuff back then. Is there anything you remember how you tested it that you can recall?
I think over the course of my business life, particularly, there have been any number of things. One of the ones that stands out most in my mind was when I was fairly early on in my business, and I took on my first employee, and he came into the business and had not been working with me that long, but I had a belief that there was a ceiling on what was possible relative to where the business was at the time, to the premises we occupied. And he came in with a completely, he had no preconceived beliefs or assumptions about the business. He came in completely naive, if you like, from a different industry, and he saw potential that I couldn't see. And in conversations that unfolded, my state of being shifted to be in alignment with his belief. I loved that he believed, and then I believed in his belief in the business. And literally within a matter of weeks, my business went from a current underlying rate, but more than 300% increase within a matter of weeks. And I didn't realize it at the time because I wasn't into these teachings, but I can look back on that and absolutely see how it was just the evidence of a shift in my state.
And we can see that quickly, like you said earlier. Like if we really not so much focus on what next action step can I take, what's the best new solution externally that I can do, but if we invest some time consciously to internally realign us, make a radical internal alignment to a new state, to a new identity, that then this can be expressed in your case plus 300% in revenue. That's good. In weeks with no extra effort and without doing anything differently. I didn't have to go and put a big marketing campaign together or do anything. It just unfolded literally. And I think there's a lesson as well in working with you, Niclas, and working with the law, is that we're so prone to being thrown out of state by some, we could get up on a Monday, feel really confident, be in a good state, and then we have a conversation with someone, and before we know it, we've been bumped out of state. And then we start to create in harmony with the state that's not in line with our desires, and so on. And coming into these teachings, I think one of the gifts in it is it supports us to feel better consistently. This is a question.
A conversation I had with
we were just cut for 1 second. Please go
on. It reminds me of a conversation I had a couple of years ago with a client who said to me, he wasn't a client at the time, he was a prospective client, and he said, "But Rob, what if the only thing that I get from working with you is that I feel blissfully happy all of the time?" And it was a great question. I said, what if the only thing I get from you is that I feel blissfully happy all of the time? And isn't it ironic that actually that's what everybody's really wanting anyway?
Yes. But we think it's through this, and when I have this, and when I have this, maybe you can tell me with this story you told me about this person that wanted the new car and all of that, but he never really got to this level of feeling blissful. This one story that you mentioned, I found that is a really good example right now.
So you need to remind me on it. Was it
the story? I think you said it was any type of Indian person that tried to. I changed the wife, I changed the car, I tried this. Right. Nothing brought me any sense of bliss.
I saw it. It was a video clip on. I think it was on Instagram or YouTube, and it was just a short clip. And it was somebody who'd eventually come in to embrace these teachings, having tried to find their fulfillment and happiness in the outside world. And he just said, he said, I tried everything to make my life work and to find fulfillment and abundance and so on. He said, and I changed my wife a couple of times. He said, I changed my car, I changed my house, I changed my job, I moved countries, I did X, Y, and Z. He said, and yet nothing seemed to fill the void until I came into this understanding.
That's really the paradigm change. Either we come from lack and we try to get the abundance out there and seek something, or we come from wholeness, from this more a bigger picture point of view, basically, and we do what you said earlier, which I also really liked. It's we select what we want, but we know it's already in our storehouse, in the storehouse of our being. It's already within us. The states are available, the identities are available, and we boldly select. We say, I want to be this, I desire this. This helps me to express myself right now. Boom, and it's already there. But we're not coming from lack. I think, yeah, that's a nice insight.
Yes, and of course we can reference back because we're so culturally ingrained in the belief in hard work to be human doings rather than human beings. I mean, there's a clue in the name, isn't there? We're called human beings for a reason, but because we're so culturally ingrained in doing this, we can always point to the evidence of how our doing has supported our goal achievement. But ultimately, our achievement has always been in harmony with what we've accepted in consciousness, with what we've been in alignment with.
Yes,
it's always been relative to what we've allowed ourselves to believe in.
Yes, exactly.
You know, we're when I say believing in, I mean we bring in what, or we experience what we believe. We're literally believing it in.
Yes, believing it in. It's also what Neville said.
Yeah.
We believe something in. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. So even if we attribute it to the doingness and the hard work, it's always been on account of what we've allowed in beingness.
Yes. What would you say those teachings, right? They're really like holistic. There's much to it. They have many nuances to it. You then at some point came into the business mastermind. We started to also work together. What would you say? How has your perception also in business changed in general? Because like in the beginning, maybe some people that are also listening to this right now, they say, oh, like, yeah, I want to have more money. I want to double my revenue. I want to 10x my revenue, which is all possible, all actually very easily doable when we correctly apply the principles. But how has your perception of yourself as a business owner, of your business in general, changed? Like, how does that look like at the moment after you went through those teachings and internalized them?
Yeah, it's a great question, Niclas. I think there's been a number of changes, some of which I'm probably less conscious of or less top of mind than others. But I know because I was ingrained. I was brought up in a I was educated my whole up around doing this. I used to watch my dad get it. He was always out of the house in the morning before I was awake, and he was always back late at night, worked very hard, and my mother worked hard. And I observed that. That was my model. If you want to get ahead in life, you've got to work really hard. So when I started to really embrace these teachings and come out of the teachings around doing this, and I think a lot of the law of attraction teachings are still very much immersed in, hard work and effort and all the rest of it, and aligning your mindset, but it's still quite doing based. When I really started to move into the understanding that actually the creation of outcomes in our life is not doing based, I had quite a challenge dropping that whole notion that, oh, I should be busy, I should be doing stuff.
Yeah.
But the outcome of embracing that is actually that I have a flow and fulfillment, a flow in my day, and I come up my days now from fulfillment. Some days I get knocked off my perch. We're all human, and we're prone to be triggered now and again. Although I increasingly see triggers as being something that served me rather than something
Definitely.
But I think the net result is better outcomes, better income, better outcome. With less doing, more fulfillment, and more joy and happiness. And when I look at it, all my life, that's what I was chasing, was fulfillment and happiness.
I had a previous business. I don't know if you know the details about that, but it was basically like a software company back really long time ago. And that was the time when I had a business and I had people that I worked with. And that was the first time me being like really self-employed, but I just felt like absolutely like exhausted, unhappy, unmotivated, uninspired. Like I at some point I realized like I'm actually only doing it for the money. Like I'm only here because it pays some of my bills. But other than that, it doesn't excite me. It doesn't fulfill me. I can't express really what I want to express. And then I made the bold decision to really leave that because I saw this is not who I want to be. Right? I know that there is more. I know that there is happiness, fulfillment, abundance, and I want to discover that and then kind of like share it with the world, share how other people can find it in themselves. And then I came to like Upgrade to Life, those whole teachings and understandings. I don't know how it was for your business journey, but this was this huge pivot also for me, is when I saw, yes, money is of course a business, like this is the resource that we deal with. It's super important, and we can definitely have a lot of it when we are internally already extremely abundant and in that abundant business owner state. But if you at some point you see that yes, the money is a byproduct of that state, but if you do something again and again and again that you hate and don't like, you burn yourself out. So you should also get clear on who do you want to be as a business owner, and what do you actually want your business to look like, and make it your dream business in a sense. I found that is what also some business owners that probably also you get to work with are really missing out on, or not doing. What do you say about this?
Yeah, I think that's such a great point, Niclas, because that very much resonates with me. I really didn't want to become a coach. My life was invested in, what do I want in terms of trying to find safety and security and earn more money and all that stuff. But it was really invested in, how do I want to be seen by others?
Mm-hmm.
That was my, looking back, it was like, oh, I need to be seen in a certain way because I don't feel good enough as I currently am. And I didn't really want to get into coaching until such time as I got myself so exhausted and burnt out with the business I was in, that I decided to get out of it. And then it led me into business coaching, and then into my current focus is around the mind and Neville's teachings and law of assumption. And it's funny how life is always nudging us, often through discomfort,
mm-hmm.
to come the truth.
Yes. Like triggers discomfort, unhappiness, being in some sort of suffering in a sense. That's, I would make this statement, that's one of the biggest motor elements to thrive and go in another direction, because we're so overwhelmed, yes. We're so unhappy that we say, I can't go like this any longer. I need to make a change, and we all know it. So it's true.
Yeah.
True.
And one of the questions I asked last week with a group I was working with, I said, if you had to choose, and the beauty is we don't have to choose, but if you had to, and it was happiness or the money, you could have the money but not the happiness, or the happiness but not the money, which would you go for?
Yeah.
And good question. It's a fascinating question. It was a sea of blank faces for quite a long time.
Depending on the amount of money. No, I'm just joking.
Well, yes, but isn't it funny? Because the mind goes to, well, I'd obviously take the money, because when I have the money, then I'll be happy. Then I'd have the house and the car, and then I'd be happy.
Yeah.
But we know from our life experience that the things don't bring the happiness, the new phone or the new car or the new relationship. The happiness comes from within. We're the ones that give that to ourselves, because it's who we are.
Yeah, this is really true. This is what Rupert Spira said it also at some point, is that if someone would have found happiness in an objective experience, like in this specific car or in this amount of money or whatever, this formula would be already out there. Like, get this or get this item, then you're forever happy. But no one has experienced that, because it is not in the item, right? It is in us all the time available, so we don't have to seek it. Once we discover it more and more, uncover the layers and come more from that perspective, we know that life becomes a more pleasant journey. We still have ups and downs. I have.
Yes.
You maybe too.
Me too. Me too. And I'd be wary of any coach or teacher that said that their life was absolutely harmonious and perfect all of the time. We're here having a human experience, and embracing all of it, I think, is all part of the journey.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's you reminds me of a story a friend of mine told me. He bought he had a goal to buy an Aston Martin, and I forget what it cost, but I think it was about 160,000 or something at the time, and he loved it he loved it all the time he had it. But he went to the supermarket on his way home to pick up something that his wife had asked him to get, and somebody dented opened the car next to it and put a little dent in his car, and all of a sudden his happiness was diminished, and he had to go to the garage. And he said, from that moment on, whenever I went to a shopping center or car park, he said I had to park the car in the furthest space so that it was furthest away from other vehicles. And he said, although I loved the driving of it and all the rest of it, he said there was as much inconvenience from the toy as there was pleasure. And we're I think all the toys and the success and all that is fantastic, but
Yes.
not if we've got our happiness invested in it.
Exactly. Not if we're attached to it. Not if our happiness is invested in it. That's so
Yeah,
true. That's so true. Yes.
yeah,
Money is good. I mean, this is also important as business owners, right? I would say that if you're listening to this
yes,
conversation right now, yeah, if you want like more money and if you want your business revenue to grow, that's definitely something that business owners also should strive for. I just see that I'm a little bit unclear. But if you think that it will bring you everlasting happiness, like Rob just said, that's a false premise. So start more from knowing it's fun, it's a game, it's pleasure, it's joy, it's really cool, but don't attach yourself to it. That's a good message.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I agree.
Do you have maybe as a conclusion for the conversation? I would definitely like to know: are there any, let's say, applying ways, methods, techniques from Neville's principles that you like most, that you maybe adopted, internalized, applied to also internally align yourself to that identity, to that state of being more successful, and then your business success came towards you? Like, is there something that you like most, maybe, so that people can then also be inspired by it?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and it comes back to what you said earlier on about I am. So I think some of the techniques are very helpful, and I of all the Neville's teachings, I remember when. So looking
Okay.
back at looking using our imagination to look back at something that's yet to happen. I quite like playing with that. But increasingly, I've come away from techniques because I found personally that if I was applying techniques, I was invariably coming at it from lack or trying to make something happen. So
Mm.
so the techniques I've come away from, and I now view the bridge between the desire and the fulfillment
Yeah.
as I am.
Okay.
And so I just seek to go through my days. If I'm Rob making a cup of coffee, I'm Rob making a cup of coffee in fulfillment,
Mm-hmm.
being the person who's in fulfillment. and
Good.
and increasingly there's an awareness that actually there's no work to be done to be in the wish fulfilled. It's who we are.
Yes.
All of our desires are walking us home to the truth about ourselves. So my
Exactly.
my favorite technique is to be present.
Yeah. That's real the best technique out there, right? Is
Which
to
isn't
be
really.
to be to be in the moment, is to be it now. Right? That's the that's funny enough, the slogan that I have put in the mastermind on the right side. I don't know if you saw that, but it's like be it now, being present in the moment and right now, being present. And if we want to embody a state, we have to embody it also here and now. And sometimes, as you said, there are not even really techniques necessary. We can just be present in the moment, and that's all it takes. Like, that's all
Yeah,
it needs.
yeah. And sometimes if we're a bit out of state or we're a bit anxious about something, sometimes that's more challenging than other times. But my view now is that it's not the anxiety, if that's what we're experiencing, that's the problem. It's how we're relating to it. It's the fact that we resist it that causes the problem.
Yeah.
Whereas if we just let it be, it'll move.
Yes.
It's the resistance to what is the cause of all our suffering.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. It's great.
Um, so
Really nice. This was cool. This was good.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I really enjoyed speaking with you, Rob. To my mind, right now, there are no more topics slash questions slash things that I uh, come up with right now. I think you shared and expressed really amazing insights. Is there anything that you want to say at the end to the audience? Maybe you want to share where they can find you, if they should find you, or any final tip you have that you want to say to someone listening to us right now?
Um, I guess the only thing that I would maybe want to say is that our life is happening now. We've never experienced the past. We've never experienced the future. Life is now. So when we find ourselves waiting for the right moment or the right timing, or when we've got the money or whatever, we're putting our life on hold. We're putting our life into somewhere where life doesn't exist. So my
Exactly.
encouragement would be be led by your heart. What does your heart want? And then lean into that. Have the courage to follow your convictions, even if it's a decision to explore, or to have a conversation with Niclas, or, you know, now is all we've ever got. We don't know we've got tomorrow. I don't know even if I've got this evening. And living life in the only place it happens would be my parting shot for this call, I guess.
Yeah, and I think, you know why I love this message? Even 1% more than it is already perfect, and I love it like 100%, because in the background of your room there is this heart, just perfectly matching this conclusion. There is only now, and this is the heart of us, the now moment. That's all we got. I love this perfect message.
Yeah.
Thank you really much, Rob, for joining me today, having this amazing conversation with you. I look forward to hear more from you, and I wish you all the best, and talk to you soon.
You too. Thanks, Niclas. Take care. Bye. Bye.